So now we're going to do a centre back unlined jacket vent construction. So this is the sample we have here. It's on the outside. We have the vent, and somebody's poked that corner in. That should actually be out all the way. Didn't look at that before. There we go, that's better, nice sharp corner. So you can see here we have the facing. So this is a fold back facing on this side, and this is an extension with a sewn on facing on the underside here. That way both of these pieces can be the same piece, and this is just an additional piece. And then to hold it together at the top, we have a diagonal row of stitching, which might be hard to see, but yes, just a straight stitch which sews through all of the layers and holds everything in place and holds it at the right angle so this doesn't gape open all the time. On the inside here, the construction that we've used is just an extended seam allowance with a overlocking here that has been turned back. So you don't see any overlocking. It's a really nice finish, really easy to do, but yeah, it just looks really good on the inside of a jacket. And so this PDF will be on Blackboard, and there's also a link in that PDF that you'll have to type out because it's not a hyperlink to the sewing construction on YouTube, on the QT Fashion Studio YouTube channel, which you can have a look at. Okay, so we're using for this one the semi-fitted jacket block back. But this is a technique that could be used on a dartless or an overgarment or a trench coat or something like that. So it's it's completely adaptable to other jackets and coats, and it's also something that you could do on the back of a tailored skirt as well if you wanted to put a kick pleat in the back. So we just need to trace out our whole piece. Again, marking notches as we go around, and use your tailor's awl. So the points here that we're marking in for the dart, they're actually the stitch lines and the ends of the darts here that you join together. So we'll talk a little bit more later about the drill holes that we put in. And I don't think, I thought that was the waist one. And we just want to take this across, so we're going from the side across through the middle dart just to find the waist level at the center back there. Oop, and I forgot my shoulder dart. So just draw those lines in so it's really obvious, that you're working with those darts and you can't forget them. First thing we need to do is we need to square the centre back. This centre back line has a bit of shaping, so it goes into the waist and then it goes out slightly towards the hem. And what we want to do is just straighten up that. So we want a right angle from the centre back down along the hem here. And this is just to make it easier along the fold line and to construct the vent. Okay, so we're going to make the vent 12 centimeters long. And remember, I'm working in half scale, so I'll give you the full scale measurements, but I'll actually be doing it in half scale. So 12 centimeters up and 4 centimeters deep, going back to our new center back line there. Go up another 4 centimeters to the top, and we'll mark that in there. So what I've just created then is this angle here that I've come out. And remember, there's no seam allowance. We haven't added any seam allowances just yet, but that'll come soon. Actually, it's going to come right now. So we're adding seam allowances on here. To get this seam allowance here on the back of this was 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. This overlocking is actually quite wide, you could just use a three thread overlocker, and so that would be a little bit narrower. So it's actually a good idea to make this center back seam allowance like at least 1.5 up to 2.5, so that you've got enough room to do the overlocking, turn it under, pin stitch it, and then press it open for it to stay open, especially in a thicker cloth. The thicker the cloth you're using, the wider the seam allowance that you'll need to have down the center back. So I'm going to do 2 centimeters down the back here. Now this is a bit odd. When the 2 centimeters comes down, when it intersects with this diagonal line here, this line is actually going to still be 1 centimeter seam allowance, and then 1 centimeter along here as well. And so what we can do here, so that we don't have an angle here, because it's always trickier to overlock around an angle, we can just smooth that off. So we've got a curve. So we'll overlock down here and off down to the top of the vent opening. So 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters at the center back, our 4 centimeter hem, and the rest of actually 6 mil seam allowance around the neckline. My pencils just broke. And 1 centimeter for the rest of our seams here. Transfer your notches onto the raw edges here, and then down the side seam. Pencils, the lead in my pencil's broken. And then remember here, you'll need to do the same turn back as you use on the hems on the sleeves that you've done. And so we need to, this is our fold line for our hem. We need to come up on the side seam the width of our hem, which is 4 centimeters. Put our pencil on that point, put the line on our grading ruler along the fold of the jacket hem, and then mark another line down here, and then we'll just join those two together. So that gives us a turn back. If we just kept going out, then this length would be too big for the space that it takes up when it's folded up. For our pieces, actually one thing I didn't do before is put the grain line on. So it's need to mark in the grain line. And for our darts, we need to come back 1 centimeter from the end of each of our darts and put a drill hole. And then at the waist, it's just 0.5 inside the waist. And now we just need to do our vent. So what we would do here is you can actually cut this piece out. I'm not going to cut out the whole piece, I'm just going to do this back section here. And we're going to trace off this back section to create our facing, which is the facing that we need for this, actually this section here. So there's a seam there. So it's this piece here. And take that line all the way up to the waist. We have a waist notch here and across. And what I'll do, because we don't want this whole hem allowance as part of our facing, we're just going to use the tailor's awl to mark this line here, which is this finished edge here, and then to mark the center back here. So then we take that away, just join up the dots. Now what that means too, because we've given this extra length here, it means that the seam allowance, actually that doesn't have a seam allowance on it. So we need the seam allowance to be the same as the centre back. So whatever the seam allowance from here to here, it needs to go from here over to there so that we can actually sew these together and fold these edges under the same way. And then from our waist notch, I'm going to come up a centimetre. So we have, and that's just that so that we can fold this back, and we have a little fold along that top edge there. So that's tucked under there. And then we need just our 1 centimetre seam allowance along the bottom there. That will be our grain line. And that already this edge here, the seam allowance is already included and along the top, so we'll just draw that in as well. You can see how our seam allowance goes from 1 centimetre up to 2 centimetres here. So that piece will be cut just one, and I actually have the cutting measurements on here. So vent facing, cut one self and one fusing sticky side up. And by sticky side up, it means the interfacing that you're using or the fusing that you're using, the glue has to be on the top when you cut it out, because we need the glue to stick on to the back of this panel here, which is what sticky side up means. And there are a couple more videos with the links here in the document, videos to how you might want to finish these edges here as well. If you don't want to just overlock and turn it under, you can do a Hong Kong bind, or you could do a bound edge as well. So there are just two videos that you can use as reference as other options when it comes to finishing off the centre back seam allowances. And the instructions on here as well for, actually I don't have the cutting instructions for our back. So our back cutting instructions will be cut, pencil's still broken, cut one pair of these because it's the same on both sides. And that's our back unlined vent.